as the summer starts. So,
Hmm.
so welcome everyone. We've got a couple of upcoming meetings that I want to talk about, and it's a little confusing because uh, we'll get more details out in the newsletter in June, but we're going to have our printing uh, at Kathy's house that we've done the last couple of years in June. But because of some other scheduling things, we're going to move, oops, sorry, uh, our July meeting up to the following week after the print meeting. Um, so it will be might be a little confusing. So we're going to have June and July both in June, and so in the printing meeting, like we did the last year, there'll be 15% participants, but everybody's invited to come. The participants will leave with a 16 by 24 print, and we'll do it at Kathy's house. Once again, we're going to provide lunch for everybody who comes. And if you want to attend, just put in, I'd like to attend and print, or I will attend and hang out to the email below. And that'll come out in the, uh, sorry, I must have the
Timer on or something.
automated thing on. Um, anyhow, there'll be more details in the snapshot on June 1st. But then the following week, uh, Sue has arranged a really interesting trip over to Du Bois. And we'd get there in the afternoon. The club's going to provide dinner. We've got some reserved spots at a couple of hotels. But what's going to happen if we have a photographer named Jeff Venuga who's going to lead us on an evening shoot on the 26th and a morning shoot on the 27th. As I said, we've got a block of rooms reserved, and we'll have a group dinner, and it's going to be compliments of the club. And again, to reserve your spot, send an email talking about the Du Bois trip. So, Sue, if you'd like, I'll let you make a few comments. You've set all this up. So,
Yeah, well, and I want to say thank you to CJ because she recommended Jeff. And I went over there last weekend to meet him and to do a little tooting around and see what was what. He's a fabulous photographer, internationally known. Um, and June 26th was the only day actually he had because I think he's going down to Brazil, taking some tours looking for panthers, but he has been generous enough to do this for free for us this year. So I went over there, and he sure knows where the sites are. So to me, we are incredibly lucky on this. And depending on, and I'd like to hear comments anybody has, um, if we were to get there early enough in the afternoon, he could probably take us out to a spot in the afternoon. The big thing is it's just a thing over in Du Bois. All the restaurants open at 5 and not any earlier. And you also better be there at 5 to get a seat. So with one of the owners, and I think it's Liz at the Black Bear. She's going to try and facilitate us getting a reservation for the group. Because the other thing over there is I called all of them and it's we don't take reservations. So that's going to be a little tricky. But as I said, if there maybe is a group of us that's over there a little bit earlier, like two or three, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff would take us to at least one of the sites. But it is a gorgeous, gorgeous area for anyone that hasn't been there. It's basically the valley floor in a lot of areas. It's a Badlands area, And then there's this very peculiar looking peak called the Ram's Horn. And it's the same materials basically as the Breccia Cliffs. And then it goes back into the Absaroka Wilderness. So it is a beautiful spot. And I don't think you can swing the lens in any direction and not come up with something really, really attractive. So sign up by all means. Anything else I need to tell them, David?
I don't think so. I think the key thing is for those that come late, we'll have dinner and then an evening shoot, and then you could spend the night. And um, we'll do a morning shoot with Jeff, and then we can also do some impromptu things if people come early or want to stay later. So
Yeah, because I'm assuming by the time we've wandered around, you may see some spots you want to go back to. And the reason evening and early morning, I think Jeff was saying that's just about the only time he goes out anymore. It's the way the light is shining, hitting different parts of the Badlands in the valley. So y'all come.
Mhm.
all right, last thing. So tonight, Rachel's going to give us a presentation on her trip shooting brown bears in Alaska. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get right to it. I'll turn it over to her.
Okay, can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. So yeah, I took this trip last year in June, late June, and this is a place in Lake Clark National Park in Alaska, and it's primarily to shoot brown bears that clam along the beaches. So in regards to where is it located, it is down here. That's this where you can see the pin drop, and this is Anchorage. So you need to get yourself to Anchorage, and then the lodge where you stay and shoot organizes flights for you to get to the actual lodge. And this is it's a puddle jumper plane experience. So if you're not happy to get in tiny little planes, then this is not for you. So essentially, in Anchorage, there is a huge float plane field, and there's tons and tons of trips go out of Anchorage. And as you probably know, there's very few roads in Alaska. So if you want to go anywhere, you generally have to take a plane. And so this is the flight that you take from Anchorage out to the lodge. So it's extremely beautiful. This whole area is basically wilderness. There is one or two roads because there is some residual mining there, but largely it's just wilderness area. So you can see in here, there's only 3 of us in the plane, and there's one person in the next to the pilot, and then 2 of us in the back. This is one of those experiences where they weigh everything. They weigh you, they weigh your bags, they weigh everything, because this is a tiny little puddle jumper plane. And you can only land here at the lodge when the tide is out. So as you can see, we're landing on a beach here. The tides are huge, like 200 meters, more than that maybe. And so you can only land during the tide being out. So if you don't like little planes, then, maybe, but, it's absolutely fine. So this is the beach that you land on when you get to the lodge. And so some of the planes take a few more people. As I said, we had 3 people. And so as you can see the water line here where the water comes up in high tide. So they'll draw us here, and then they'll take the people out that had been there prior to us. That's not even the tide being completely out. But you can see that, this beach gets very exposed. And then you can see these little 4x4s here. They will take you to the lodge. And let me show you that. So they pick you up in these little sort of 4x4s, and your luggage follows behind. So you can see here there's another little 4x4 with our luggage. And so we just get in these little trip things, and they take you up to the lodge. So this is completely a wilderness area. There's no power. There's running water. There's hot water, but there is electricity, but it's all solar. And at the beginning of the season, these guys have to fly in everything from Anchorage and stock up the lodge for the whole season. They do, once a week, they do go shopping in a plane. So most people in this area, this road we're going along right is used as a runway. So the few people that live here, which is, as you can see, and it's very seasonal, most people are not here the whole year. They use that road as a runway if they need to go and get groceries. They also have boats, and so they'll pop over the bay to get boats, to get food and supplies. But mostly they're here for the whole summer season. As most of you would know, Alaska is called the land of the midnight sun because the sun really never actually sets. So with respect to photography, you're shooting 12, 14, 16 hours a day if you want. With us, this is actually the front door of the lodge here. So it's all about bears. And there was a group of 8 of us, and we had a guide who took us around everywhere. His name's Adam. He was the one driving that 4x4. And you decide how frequently you go out. So you can either, get up at 5 and shoot before breakfast, and then shoot after breakfast, and then come back and have lunch, shoot after lunch, come back, have dinner, go out again, because the light is pretty much always there. So this is me, obviously. This is the gear that I took. It's essential to have rain gear because even though it's the height of summer, it still rains and it does get pretty cold as well. So there's also a lot of bugs. So you have to have a mosquito net on your face. That's really important. And then I'll go through a gear list a little bit later on so you can see. But essentially also because you're going out and shooting in the mud flats, you are sort of bending down in the mud. And so you do want to have rain pants as well as a rain jacket. So this is the view from the lodge. This is from the table where you eat dinner. And you can see, if you can see way out here is a bear. So you can see bears from breakfast. This is the ocean out here. And then if you walk out the front door of the lodge, you'll just find bears just cruising around, sleeping, hanging out. So this bear, I think this was like 5 o'clock in the morning, we came out to go out shooting. And this huge visible brown bear just laying in the middle of the grass. So we all just had to wait until he decided to leave before we could go out. So the Alaska bears are not like the lower 48 bears. They are super chill. You can tell from this. I mean, this is taken with a zoom lens, so it's compressed, but they do not see humans as a threat. They do not see them as a food source. They just go about their business and they just wander past you at arm's length and they don't care about you. And it really messes with your head because when you come from the Tetons where there's the 100-yard rule and, you've got to have your bear spray, you can't approach a bear and you can't, and you're so careful. Like David was just telling us earlier that he came across a grizz in the wilderness the other day and the first thing he did was turn around and get the hell out of there. These bears do not care about you. And so having come from the lower 48 where I'm really, really cautious, I, always carry bear spray, all that sort of thing. This is not the same deal. These bears do not care. And by the way, nobody here carries bear spray. You obviously can't bring it in because you're on a flight, on a plane. And the way that the guides deal with it is you walk around with the guides. You're not allowed to break off from the group because if they see groups of humans as not a threat, but if you break off as a single person, they may perceive you as a threat. So you just all walk in single file together, you all stay in groups, you all stay together, but these bears do not care. So here's an example of the kind of behavior they get up to. They just are not bothered. This bear was just laying around. We ended up calling her Roly Poly Hoo Ha because she was just hanging out, showing us everything she owned, lying around in the grass. And I mean, again, I've shot this, I think, with a 100mm lens, so it's compressed, but these bears are very chill. And so because they're very chill, you get incredible shots because they'll just walk past you. If you had a 600mm lens out here, that would be too much. So I took a 1:500 and I frequently was shooting, at 100, 200, 300. You do not need a big lens, and you certainly don't need to carry a big, heavy, expensive prime because they're so close that I had a 1:500 and it was perfectly fine. So the reason these bears are here is because they're digging for clams. So they are called coastal brown bears, and they come in to the beach when the tide is out and then they dig for clams. And so in this, we've walked out of the mud flaps and we're just standing in a group, and this bear just came in and started digging. So they're digging up razor clams, and then they're eating the tiny little bits of razor clams that they find. And they're super, super fluffy as well. Just so fluffy. Anyway. So this is what they're eating, these tiny little bits of clam that they dig up. And so you can see around this bear, there's all these holes where he's been digging just to get this tiny little bit of clam. And this guy, his name is Little Crimp. And his mum is called Crimp, hence him being called Little Crimp. And he actually, I think in this video, he's a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and he'd been kicked out the previous season by his mum. And he wanted to come back. And so he did come back, and then his mum chased him off. So in this video, he's running away from his mum because she'd already kicked him out. So he had to go and find his own territory. But yeah, you can get some really beautiful footage of these bears because they're just around you the whole time. So again, this is just a bear out digging for clams. It's frequently when I was there, it was frequently drizzling, and so you get these nice moody shots of fog and stuff as well. Whoops, I'm just gonna. So the lodge. The lodge itself is called the Homestead Lodge. It's a fully contained accommodation where they feed you 3 times a day. The food is incredible. It's basically gourmet food. It's really amazing. They have a private chef and an assistant chef or a sous chef. And so we had the whole place to ourselves. So I was in a tour group. There was 8 of us. And so there's, in the main lodge, they have about 3 or 4 bedrooms, and then they have a couple of bedrooms off the back. So people were sharing rooms, or I had a single to myself. And then they feed you this incredible food. They go out and catch Alaskan salmon on their boat and feed you that sometimes. And then apart from that, this is the kind of food. So you don't need, once you get to this place, all you have to do is concentrate on photography. You don't have to worry about going out to eat. They have snacks all the time as well, and tea and coffee sitting there, so you can just come in and snack. And I actually put this in. I put this one in for John. This one here, because if anyone came to his talk on the Grand Canyon a few weeks ago, he was talking about how much booze they took out on the boats when they did their 12-day Grand Canyon 12-night. And so these guys also do stock up with alcohol at the beginning of the season, but it will run out, so you have to ration it. So there is wine as well. So here is a view of the table that everyone has dinner at. And this is, you can see out here beyond beyond the grass and the meadow here is the water where the bears are. And so the bears just wander in, they come onto the meadow, they wander around the lodge. So you have to be careful that you don't just step on one, essentially, because they're just everywhere. One of the nice things about this was we had the whole place to ourselves as a tour group. And when you have dinner, they ban mobile phones, which I think is kind of cute. So you have to talk to each other, which was good. It worked really well for everybody. No one was on their phone. Everyone was, and obviously there's only Wi-Fi here. There's no cell phone coverage, but there is Wi-Fi. And then here you can see the kitchen area. So this is where the chef cooks all meals. They make everything like bread, cakes, and beautiful meals. They have a garden at the back. So in the summer, they have fresh herbs and fresh greens. And then this little area, everyone just sort of sits in the rocking chairs and just looks out the window. There's binoculars. You can see if there's any bears coming. So it's a really beautiful little place, and it's completely self-contained. And this is some photos of the surrounding area. So it's not just bears and the beach. There's beautiful wildflowers everywhere. We spent some time trying to get a photo of bears in the lupins. We weren't really successful, but if you can get bears sitting in the lupins, it's really special. This is Adam. He's our guide, and so he takes us around every day and then tells us about the flowers and the plants and things like that. So there's also lots of interesting kind of stuff you can find in the sand and in the dirt from the bears when they were just wandering around. Adam actually a couple of years ago did see a wolverine on the beach, and he's got an incredible photo of a wolverine running down the beach. So I didn't see a wolverine, but that's fine. I was fine with that. But yeah, this area does have wolverines, and this is the kind of view you get when the sun is low in the sky, even though it never completely sets. So it's absolutely beautiful, beautiful wilderness area. You also get really beautiful patterns in the sand from when the tide goes out. So this is how we get around every day. So and in these little trailers, and then Adam will take it around. You can see there's a bear here that's clamming. And then you'll all just kind of find a spot where you've got a good view and you can stop and take photos and then just move on. Here you can see how far the tide goes out when it's really fully out. So all the boats get beached. In this red circle, you can barely make out there's a bear all the way out there. So they'll come in and they just wander around the mud and they dig clams and just hang out until the tide comes in. And then we do a little bit of off-roading, like. So there was a couple of times we had to cross some rivers, and so Adam would take half of us out because we were too heavy and then take us across the river. The thing about this area is that the sand is really, really silty. It's very, very fine. And so I think it's because it's coming down from the glaciers. And so it can mess with your camera. So I think on about day 2, my shutter button got stuck down because it got some silt stuck under it. And I had a scum body with me in case something like that happened. But in the end, I was able to just blow it out with a little blower. But you want to be careful of that you don't end up getting these silty stuff in your dials and knobs on your camera, because it can mess it up. Also, some of this mud is very much like quicksand. And we did have an incident where one of these guys was walking across and then just started sinking down. And so anyone who ever heard, when I was a kid, I was always told that quicksand was a real threat. Well, I finally found that out. It actually is. So this is the kind of landscape that you go through when you're going around looking for bears. So you're all on Adam's 4x4, but it's so beautiful because the flowers and the foliage are absolutely stunning, and you're going through these really narrow pathways, which, as someone who's got a Teton Yellowstone ecosystem wired brain for bears, you just expect them to kind of jump out and eat you, but they don't. They're very chill in Alaska. So yeah,
Rachel,
this is just
what time of year were you there?
June 22nd to 25th.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I said the bears are chill, but they're not that chill, because this is actually a chunk taken out of the seat of Adam's 4x4 by a bear. So there's one particular bear that hangs out at the lodge that has taken a fancy to his seat and always ends up chewing it and taking chunks off it. So this is some of the photos you can get. So the light here is unbelievable. There's just something about the light here that is so beautiful. And the colors of the meadow are this almost, fluorescent green and yellows. They're so beautiful. And because the bears are not frightened of you, they're not interested in you, they just hang out and eat. These two were just having a little play fight, just sort of jumping around and in front of everybody and fighting. So you get to see all kinds of behaviours. So mating behaviour, play fighting, clamming, just hanging out in the meadows, chasing each other. It's incredible. It's just sort of like you just get to observe these bears in essentially their natural environment, as if humans are there. They just carry on as if not there. So I think these two are actually siblings, and they were just messing around. So this was not a serious fight. It was just a play fight. And so I'll just show you some of the photos that I got. So because you've got these bears just wander right up to you, you can get incredible portraits of them. This is little Crimp again, the bear that came back in, his mum kicked him out. And he'd been running because he was chased by his mum, and he just came and chilled out in the meadow. They all just was sitting there, so we just took some video of him. And you can see how pristine they look. A couple of bears that sort of lost their coats a little bit and scratching their rumps on trees and things like that. But these bears just have pristine coats. They're just incredibly healthy and incredibly fluffy. And then here's a couple that were just hanging out in the meadow with the lupins in the background. This guy just come out of the ocean or the river, I think. So all the way through these meadows weaves just creeks and rivers. So the bears just come in and out of them so that you can get them wet. And then you can see the light on this little bear. It's just so beautiful the way it rims their ears and just lets them pop out of the image with the lupins in the ground. This little guy as well, really sweet. And yeah, you can get them doing all kinds of things, sitting up, fighting, standing up. Whoops, my beach ball of death has started. Here we go. And then, of course, there's plenty of opportunities to get bears in the environment. I mean, I like shooting portraits of bears because I love bears, but also there's just really beautiful landscape. And because it's Alaska, there's often fog, and so you can get clouds and fog in your screen if you want to get bears in the meadows. There's lots of leading lines that you can find. It's just incredible landscape as well. And then you can get portraits like this. And then, yeah, just lots of this guy again who's been swimming. And then there's a little treat, which I didn't actually know we were going to have, but there's a puffin trip. So they have a boat, and there's an island that's about 40 minutes travel from the lodge, which is nicknamed Puffin Island. And I had never photographed puffins before, and I'd never seen them in real life. And so I was absolutely beside myself to go on this puffin trip. Absolutely incredible. So these, I can't remember what species these are. I should have looked it up, because there are two species on this particular island. And as you can see from this photo, it was lightly snowing at the time. But there's a whole bunch of puffins that just hang out on this island. They nest there. So there's I mean, thousands of them just swinging around. But they fly so fast, faster than, so the shutter speed for this was 1/4000th of a second, because they're whizzing past so quickly. So you get some nice shots of them sort of in the environment too, just standing around. But the ones of them flying are really cool, and you've got plenty of opportunity to do that. So you take this trip, it's about 40 minutes to get there, and then you spend about half an hour on this island where you can photograph the puffins and other seabirds that are there too. So it's just incredibly beautiful. And, I always thought I was going to have to go like to Norway or something to get photos of these birds, but they're right there, and they're so incredible, such beautiful birds. And look at these two, they're sort of flying in sync, which is really amazing. So that was a super treat to see them and to get a photograph them, because I'd never had that opportunity before. So yeah, these guys, I think, because in the evenings when you go out after dinner, there can be up to like 6 to 8 to 10 days just wandering around the meadow. And they'll all be going about their own business, but they'll all be keeping an eye on each other. So this guy was standing up because someone else had come on to the meadow. And of course there is some mating going on as well. So that's happening. When we were here, we didn't see any cubs. There had been, the previous year, there had been a mum with 3 cubs, but she had not emerged when we got there. So we don't know where she was. But yeah, there's bears hanging out together and just chilling. There's plenty of other wildlife as well. So there's eagles that sort of hang around and looking for scraps that the bears might leave behind from them digging up the clams. And then you can, if you're lucky, get shots like this where you can get some color in the sky. I don't think we had any sun really when I was there in terms of sunny days. It was pretty much overcast and grey the whole time. But this, I think, was like 10:30 at night. So as the sun gets close to the horizon, you end up getting a glow and you can get shots like this. And this again is little Crimp, the guy who's got kicked out by his mum, and he's just lying on the beach looking sorry for himself and then sleeping with the sunset. So yeah, bears in the environment, and then you get beautiful portraits. But the light is so incredibly beautiful. It's amazing and just makes the bears pop out of the photos, essentially. And there's the puffins. So some of the logistics. So this trip, as I said, it's in a tiny little float plane. Sorry, this one isn't a float plane. This is a puddle jumper. So they're very, very strict on weight, obviously. So you can only take 60 pounds in this plane from Anchorage to Lake Clark. But it wasn't really a problem because I didn't take a prime lens. So I wasn't taking a really super duper heavy 600 millimeter. I don't own one, by the way. I can't afford one. So I just had a 1:500 millimeter zoom. I had a 1.4 teleconverter, which I don't think I even put on. I had 2 bodies because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a problem, because once you're out here, you can't get back. There's no camera store down the road, you know what I mean? It's wilderness. And the other thing is, if you do want to take any side trips afterwards or before, as I said, there's basically like 2 roads in Alaska, so you'll have to take planes everywhere, and some other places might limit that even lower. So we did do a trip to Brooks Camp at Katmai National Park after this trip, and on that one, they limit your bags to 50 pounds. So we had to get rid of 10 pounds on the second part, and I'll go into that a little bit in a minute. There are lots and lots of mosquitoes, like really bad mosquitoes that will just flood your face and try to eat you. So you have to have a bug net. And it's better to have a brimmed hat so that the bug net, extends out from your face and is not touching your face. I did spray all of my clothes with pyrethrum or whatever it's called for anti-tick stuff, although I didn't find any ticks and I didn't see any, but definitely the mosquitoes were a problem. So you absolutely need to have bug spray. But as I said, no bear spray. The guides have bear spray. They've only ever, I think they said that they once had to deploy it, but they never have issues with bears being aggressive. They do control your movements, so you can't just you can't go out of the lodge on your own. So if you wake up at 3 a.m. and it's still light, you can't walk out onto the beach on your own. You have to stay in a group. But otherwise, you don't have to worry about the bears being aggressive. So everybody used monopods, and I think that's the best way because that allows you to stabilize your camera, but then also it means that you can move around quickly and easily if the bears move. I shot a lot of video, but I shot a lot of 4K 120, so that tends to stabilize itself anyway. But it was good to have a monopod just because sometimes you're standing there for a long time. And so most people use very light monopods. It does get really, really cold. So in this photo, you can see that I'm actually wearing a sweater underneath my rain jacket. And under that, I've got a couple more layers. So underneath those rain pants, I had hiking pants. So you do need warm clothes. So that because there's a 60-pound weight limit, they provide you with mud boots. So you don't have to bring your own mud boots. And the food and drink there is incredible. It is incredible. It was basically gourmet food every single meal of the day. And then, as I said, they have snacks and they have coffee and tea all day. Absolutely phenomenal food. And then what I mentioned about having a blower to remove fine sand from your camera. Most people just had like a bum bag thing, the waste pack that you can just then put all your cards and your batteries in when you're out in the field, because you can't take giant backpacks. You also don't want to be changing lenses in the field with all this fine sand floating around because it's just going to get on your sensor, no problem. And we had the entire lodge to ourselves. So that was fantastic because what would happen is at dinner every night, our guide would say, what do you guys want to do tomorrow? What time do you want to be up? And so we'd go, okay, we want to be up at 5. We want to be out at 6. And then we'd come back after that, have breakfast. At breakfast, he'd say, okay, what do you want to do now? And we'd go, well, we want to go out again. And then so he was extremely flexible with us as to how long and when we wanted to shoot. I did have a question from Barney about what happens if you're with somebody who doesn't want to shoot 14, 16 hours a day. And because the lodge is not really set up for you to just go out by yourself. So there was a pretty lake behind the lodge up a little hill. And one couple did go up there one day, but they had to be escorted up there on one of these 4x4s. Because they had to have a guide with them who had bear spray and all that kind of stuff. So it's not the kind of place where you can just go out and wander around by yourself. There was this same couple, the husband wasn't such a keen photographer. So a couple of times when we went out for a session, he just stayed at the lodge and chilled out. And, there's Wi-Fi there. So maybe he watched some videos or something. But yeah, it's not really designed for people that don't want to take photos 12 to 14 hours a day. So when I went in 2025, it wasn't this expensive. And I looked up the prices for this talk. And in fact, next year, their prices are going up significantly. And I guess maybe it's something to do with fuel costs. I don't know. But anyway, so an estimate of the kind of cost. So for next year, this is what they have on their website, which is 4 nights and 4 days of $5,400 per person. But you know what? I don't really think that's ridiculous because that includes the plane trip from Anchorage. So they organize that plane trip. and it's included in the cost. All you do is show up at the float plane terminal and it's all organized for you. I did notice on their website this year that they do have a charge if you get socked in with weather. So the weather can change quickly and you can get socked in if it's foggy. And so there is a $150 per person per day charge if you get stuck and you didn't intend to stay there. And then you do have to pay extra to do the puffin trip. We also took cash to give gratuities to the staff because the staff were incredible, like I said. My airfare from Idaho to Anchorage was around $600 return. It wasn't too expensive. But you do have to get travel insurance, particularly travel delay insurance, because if you get stuck out there and then you miss your return flight, you want to have insurance. Plus, if you can't get in there, you also need to have that. So that was around $500. Anyone who's been to Alaska knows it's extremely expensive. And there's reasons for that, obviously. It's very far away. So we found one of the cheapest accommodations we could find, but it was still $200 a night. It was in walking distance to the float plane field, but it was really, really very basic. And one of the reasons that I did choose it was its location to the float plane terminal, but also because they had a 24-hour shuttle that picks you up from the international airport for free. But then there are other, you can pay as much as you want, essentially, in Anchorage. But then one of the group's members that we traveled with, she stayed at a hotel that I think was like $360 a night, and they didn't have hot water for most of her stay. So, yeah, you're sort of gambling a bit. And you do need to have at least 2 nights in Anchorage because you're going to, stay one night before you catch the float plane out and then a night when you get back. And then in case you get delayed out in Lake Clark National Park, you don't want to miss your flight back to the lower 48 if that's where you're going. So it's not that cheap. Based on the 2027 prices, I estimated it was around $7,500 per person. That's gone up a lot since I went last year, but that's just the way it is. So if you're going to go all this way to Alaska and you're going to spend all that money on travel expense, travel insurance and flights, you may as well do a side trip, right? So we decided to go to Brooks Camp, which is down here in Katmai National Park. And you all know Brooks Camp, even if you don't know that you do, because it's this place. This is not my photo, but this is the place where the bears stand on the waterfalls and the salmon come up and they just open their mouths and the salmon go in their mouths, right? So incredible. And you obviously, many of you are familiar with Tom Mangelson's photo, which was shot here of the bear with the salmon going into its mouth. So this is that place. It's also this place, Fat Bear Week. Does anyone here follow Fat Bear Week? So if you're not familiar with Fat Bear Week, essentially it's run by Katmai National Park, and they essentially just have a fun competition where at the beginning of the season where the bears come out of hibernation and they're very skinny because they haven't eaten for 3 months. Then over the course of summer, they fatten up on all this salmon and they get really fat. And then at the end of summer, you vote for who you think is the fattest bear. So it's really fun. And so these are a couple of examples of what happens at Brooks Falls over the summer months. So this bear is named Chunk. He's a brown bear who won in 2024, I think. He won Fat Bear competition. So when he comes out of hibernation, he's pretty skinny. He looks a bit raggedy. And then by the end of the season, this is what he looks like. He's absolutely enormous. You might notice there's something weird about his muzzle here. So in 2025, when he came out, his whole lower mandible was hanging down and his jaw had been broken somehow. And so they were actually worried, the national park was worried that he may not be able to eat properly and therefore he may starve, there was nothing to worry about. He still became chunky. And part of the reason for that is that there's so much salmon here that essentially they just have to put their mouths down and eat it. They don't really have to try very hard. So that's Chunk. And then this is Grazer. So you can see her in July when she came out of hibernation. And then in September, she's an absolute unit. So these bears essentially just gorge themselves all summer on this salmon and just get fat. And then, I mean, who doesn't want to do that? I would. That would be my dream. So Brooks Camp is a really, really special place. It's very hard to get to. And if you know anything about trying to get accommodation there or get bookings to go there, you'll know that it's virtually impossible. They have lottery every year, and that's for the cabins, which are hard-sided, obviously, buildings. And I think it's now $1,200 a night for a cabin that has 4 bunks in it. And you can, if you don't have 4 people in your party, then you have to share with the people. There's no bathroom in that cabin. There's just a sink and bunks. And so it's very basic. That's $1,200 a night if you can win the lottery. But the trick, if you can, it's $20 a night. And it's really quite easy to get camping. But I guess on the other hand, you're camping in on a little peninsula which is full of huge brown bears, right? So this is the campground, and it is surrounded by a electric fence. This is our tent that you can see come up here. It's surrounded by an electric fence, which is really just tubes of wire. And then there's a gate and there's a sign. There's please close the gate. They're hoping that people close the gate, and you're hoping that bears don't get in. So it's $20 a night to camp here. It's incredible. And these buildings here, they have specific buildings for your gear and another building for your food. And then you have designated places where you can prepare food and eat it. So in the whole of the Brooks Camp in Katmai National Park, you cannot carry food with you anywhere outside of the lodge where they serve dinner, or these buildings where you cache food and your gear. When you walk around, you can only take water with you. You can't have any food, any snacks, because they're trying not to habituate the bears. And they've been incredibly successful. The last time a bear was euthanized at Brooks Camp was 42 years ago. They have not had any aggressive interactions with humans and bears. The first thing that happens to you when you get to Brooks is you go to bear school. So you get off float plane. You can see here, this bear is like wandering around. This is the general store. Everyone goes and gets their food stuff. So they just wander around everywhere. I mean, why not? It's their territory. So the first thing you do when you get there, you get off the plane, you go to bear school. And that's about 20 minutes where they basically just tell you how to behave around these bears. And when we went there, you just sit in these little pews, and then you look out the window and there's sort of a wooden cutout of a brown bear. And they point it out and say, that's what the bears are like, blah, blah, blah. And when I saw that, I said to John, well, that's just a cartoon size, because it was like the size of a small pony. I said, that can't be the bears here. And that is the bears there. They are about 2 or 3 times the size of the grizzlies that you see in the lower 48. They're absolutely huge because they're just eating salmon all day. Because, wow. So this is just a couple of days that were waiting for some fish. We went to Brooks Camp probably a little bit too early in the season. So we were very late June, so June 26th to 28th, and the salmon hadn't really showed up yet. They were just starting to show up. And so The peak season's like July and August when they're like all the salmon are up on the falls, and that's when the bears are standing on the falls, and that's when they're everywhere. This was a little bit early in the season. But Grazer was there. So this is Grazer who won Fat Bear Week last year, and this is her cub called Biggie. And so this was them just standing in the falls. There was some salmon there, but it wasn't at the peak, which it is during July and August. The reason that we didn't pick to go at that time was we were backing up on our trip to Lake Clark. But in addition to that, it's so packed at that time of the year. So when I was shooting this, you're standing on a platform and there's a wooden walkway that takes you out to the river. You can't go within 50 yards of the river near the waterfalls. You have to go on these walkways and platforms. And in the summertime, there's so many people that want to get on the platforms that your time on those platforms is timed. You get like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and then they go, off you go, come back later, because there's so many people that want to stand on the viewing platforms. But you go in June, that doesn't happen. However, there's not as many bears and there's not as much salmon. But there's basically very few people there. And so you can just go to the platforms whenever you want, stay for as long as you want. The platforms open at 7 a.m. and I think they close at 10 p.m. So you can be up there all day if you want. Essentially, for the first 24 hours that I was here, I forgot to eat. I just spent all my time running between the lodge. This is the lodge here, and the platforms. And that's about a mile. And you go between, you follow some paths through the forest up to the platforms, and then you've got a mile to come back to the lodge. And so I was just doing that for 24 hours because I was so excited to see these bears. This is a shot of the lodge. This is the fireplace, and this is incredible. This place is so special. There's people that just sit here and drink coffees and teas and chat. There's a bar. There's a full bar in this place, by the way, that serves cocktails and everything, that closes at 11 p.m. It's not even dark at 11 p.m. at this time of the year. But they have a happy hour. And so this is incredible because you sit here and you meet other people. There's people that come to this place every single year. And so they know all the bears' names. They know all the bears' stats. They know, who's with who and who met who last year. And it's like a little club. It's really, really fantastic. And so in this lodge, they also is where they serve meals. If you're camping in the lodge, if you're camping at Brooks Camp, you have to pay for meals here, or you can just bring your own food. So we did bring our own food. We just bought like dehydrated meals and stuff like that. But because you can pay for dinner here, it's included if you have a cabin, but if you are camping, you have to pay. But it's a buffet style thing, and it's $45 and you can eat however much you want. So we did end up eating here. And I figured because we were paying $20 a night to sleep there, I was all right to splash out on the food. This place is beautiful. So in this lodge, it's open from, I think, 6 till 11 p.m. And then you eat here. You can't take any food out of here because of the bears. When we went to leave, we were delayed. There was an obstruction on the runway. So these were all the float planes lined up, ready to leave. But we couldn't leave because we had these two sisters who were doing last-minute security inspections of the planes. We all had to wait until they were done before we'd leave. The thing about this place is it's so special because the way that the NPS has managed to run it is such that the bears just get priority and the humans are there, but they just live in harmony. I don't know how they've managed to do it. I guess because coming from the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem and the Tetons, there's just always problems with human-bear interactions. This doesn't happen here. I think part of the reason is because they're so strict about how they control people eating. You can't eat outside of the lodge. You have to eat in the food cache in the camping area. They take you to bear school as soon as you get there. We did see a couple of instances where some people were packing to leave one of the cabins and they left their suitcase on the porch. And of course, you can't do that because that's full of things that bears smell. So the rangers just came and had to stand there guarding this case until the people came back. So they're on you if you do something silly, because this place is so special for the reason that the bears just get on with it and we're just there as observers. So Brooks Camp, I 100% recommend going there if you can. It's incredible. We also did some other side trips where we went to Seward in Alaska, and I took a trip out on a kayak to see some of the glaciers. And so you can see there, I can't remember the name of this glacier, it escapes me, but you go out on a boat and they dump you in the sea and then you paddle around these incredible glaciers. And as we were out on this one, it was calving, which is good and bad, I suppose, because it was cool to see, but then it means that it's melting. But yeah, incredible. So excuse my granny pants because I didn't know we were going to do a polar plunge, but here we were out there and a few people said, oh, can we jump in? And so one by one, everyone else just jumped in as well. And it was absolutely freezing, but it was incredible. So there's this icebergs floating around and we all just jumped in. It was amazing. And here's little Crimp with his tongue out. And yeah, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Nancy had a question about how long were you there, I think.
Yeah, were you 4 days and 4 nights in Lake Clark?
Yeah, 4 days and 4 nights in Lake Clark. And then we did 2 nights or 3 nights at Brooks Camp. Yeah. In total, I was in Alaska for 2 weeks because we did Seward as well. And we drove the Seward Highway from Anchorage to Seward, and we spent 4 nights in Seward. And did some other stuff too, went to some of the national parks and stuff like that. But yeah, 4 days and 4 nights at the lodge in Lake Clark.
I've never seen the kind of footage you shared with us from Lake Clark. I've only seen the beautiful photos of the bears. It was really interesting to see the layout and getting around and stuff. Thank you for doing all that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah. Was there a message in the chat or was that from you? Oh, that's from Nancy. Yeah. So, David, I think we were talking about maybe potentially doing a trip like this for the club. And I'm not sure if it's affordable enough. I mean, because it has gone up significantly in price. But the thing about running it for the club is that it's really simple because all you have to do is get yourself to Anchorage and get yourself out home from Anchorage. There's, no one has to book restaurants or book snow coaches or Suburbans, or do you know what I mean? It's just an all-inclusive kind of thing.
Yeah.
And because they let you book the entire lodge if you have enough people. But I think, like I said, we had 8 people and we had the whole lodge to ourselves.
There are other lodges there as well, right? Or is that the only one?
There's another lodge called the Silver Salmon Creek Lodge.
Salmon, that's the one I've heard
of. Which is next door.
Okay.
And actually, the guy that runs the Alaska homestead, I think he is related to the people that run Silver Salmon. So it's all the same family that have those 2 lodges in that particular spot. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's any interest, please let us know now or email me, and we'll discuss it because it looks like a great time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next year I'm actually going on a wilderness camp to photograph coastal bears. where you camp in a tent in the wilderness and you shoot bears for four nights, I think. And that is just they take all this camping stuff out for you, and then you sleep in tents. They have a little tiny electric fence that goes around your tents, and you're out in the wilderness. So that's what I'm doing next year.
I have a friend who's done that.
Oh, what did they enjoy it?
Oh yeah, totally. She used to work for national parks, so she's
right. Yeah. I mean, I think the thing about the Alaska Lodge too that I really liked is the staff are just so dedicated to that place. And they work so hard, like the chef is up at 4 a.m. to make bread, and then she's still there cooking dinner for you at 10. And they work their butts off, and they're genuinely extremely lovely people. And they are really accommodating, and the food is fantastic. And Adam, who was our guide, he helps you out if you have questions about photography or anything like that. So, I mean, to me, it was actually almost life-changing, because I love grizzly bears so much, and to see them in that environment where they're just living their lives, and then to come back to Grand Teton, and I don't want to diss Grand Teton at all. I love it, obviously, but then to see the rangers hazing the bears and chasing them off, and it's just like, oh man, why does it have to be like this? If humans didn't habituate them, we wouldn't have to do that. And in this environment, they're not habituated. I mean, I guess they're habituated to humans around them, but not to food, for example. They're not getting into bins, and they're not, seeing humans as a threat or trying to eat stuff. So I've got a question from Marilyn here. She says, how much hiking was required? Did they take you everywhere in those four-wheelers? Yes, they took us everywhere. The only bit of walking that we did was if we were out on the mud flats and then we wanted to change position slightly because a bear moved in front of a boat or something, we would hike a little bit. Generally, we didn't hike very far from the 4x4s. So essentially minimal hiking. And then it's all just flat because you're at sea level. Like I said, the only thing that was a little bit difficult was the mud was pretty sticky sometimes, and some people did fall over and get stuck in the mud. But otherwise, you're really just walking to and from those four-wheelers. Yeah. And also, I think the puffin trip was absolutely incredible. That was voluntary. You didn't have to go on the puffin trip. But obviously I went on it because, my God. And the other thing I would say is that I spent probably 8 months practicing my photography before I went out there. So I had not really shot very much 4K 120 before I went out there, that slow motion video. And I just wanted to make sure that I could do everything before I went out there and I wasn't struggling with my camera or couldn't remember what to do. So I spent a lot of time practicing so that once I hit the ground, I knew that I could get good shots. And it's hard to get bad shots. But I would definitely have 2 bodies with me if you're going to go out there because, like I said, I have a Canon 5D Mark II and it has pre-capture on the shutter. So if you half press the shutter, it does pre-capture. It got stuck in pre-capture after one session. And David's laughing. So I actually didn't even have a blower with me. I borrowed it from another person on the tour, and luckily I blew it out a few times and it got this little bit of grit out of it. But I did have a second body in case that happened. So you need to have everything with you. And of course, like I said, you're limited to weight that you can take. When we went to Brooks Camp, the weight was reduced again by 10 pounds. So we went from 60 pounds to Alaska Lodge and then 50 pounds. And that 50 pounds included our camping gear. So tents, sleeping pads, sleeping bags, everything. So you're essentially just rocking up in one set of clothes, maybe a jacket, some undies, and you've got your cameras and your tent, and that's it. You're done. So, yeah. We spent ages and ages trying to get our gear in the correct weight. like weeks. It's just insane, but it was worth it. Yeah.
Did you only take how many lenses did you take?
I took a 100 mil prime and a 1 to 500.
That's it. That's all
Yeah.
you took? Wow.
Yeah. Honestly, there's no point taking anything longer. Like I've seen videos of people going out there with 600 mil primes, but they weigh so much and you don't need it. The bears are like this from you, they're within an arm's length of you. So you could easily take a 1 to 500 or 1.4 teleconverter. As I said, I don't think I even put my 1.4 on at all. I don't think I did. I could check. But most of my shots were between 1 to 500. Some of those tight shots was the reason those tight shots happened is because the bear was in front of my face, not because I was zooming in on it. It was walking past us. So, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Nancy's cat.
Like Nancy's cat. Yeah. That's it. Oh, and I should mention, as we were leaving, is it Henry Holdsworth, David? He was coming in. He runs that gallery in town. What's it called?
Wild by Nature, I think.
Yeah, he was coming in with a group. And Charles Glatzer also does run tours there. You know him, Nancy, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he runs trips there as well, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, all the cool kids go there, just saying, So the TPC should go.
Quick question. So when you're at Brooks, there's a lottery. It's run by the national park. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah.
So lottery to get in, $1,200 a night, or you can sleep in a tent for 20. Is that?
Yeah.
But is there a lottery to get the tent site?
No.
Only for the cabins.
It's for the cabins. Yeah. So we actually like even when we went, there was still tent sites available. It wasn't full.
Wow.
But but it's hard to get there and it's expensive to get there, right? So the way you get there, by the way, is you've got to take a float plane. It's a float plane this time from Anchorage via King Salmon and then to Brooks. And there is another option to get a boat from King Salmon to Brooks. We'd actually booked on the boat and then at the last minute, literally the day before, the boat cancelled on us because the river wasn't high enough yet because it was too early in the season. So we had to quickly switch to the plane, but it's the same price. It's $500 return, at least it was when we went, for either the boat or the plane. And we originally chose the boat because I was worried that the weather may impede the plane from getting there, but then the boat cancelled on us anyway. So we got the plane.
Those Alaska pilots flying anything.
Yeah. So yeah, one of my friends is actually going in June this year to one of the cabins. So she won the lottery and she's paying $1,200 a night to go. If you get a cabin that includes all your food, but it's $1,200 a night. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions from anyone? Well, that's a great presentation.
Really great.
Yes.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can tell, but I love bears. So
Bears and pikers.
Really?
bears and pikers are my favorite. Yeah, exactly.
They're kind of alike, except on the scale. So,
Yeah, pikers, brown bears. Yeah.
cool. So thanks for that. Just remember, everybody, we'll have a lot of details about the printing meeting coming up. And then the following week, hopefully we'll have enough people signed up. We'll all do boys and shoot some of the Badlands and, go look at Jeff Fanuga's website. He's done some great photography. I think he's done work for the BBC and Nat Geo. So he'll be a great guide to show us around down there, and we'll get more details out. And also, we probably will be able pretty quickly to see who got on the Yellowstone trip. I don't know if anybody that's on the meeting signed up or not, but today was the day. And I think it filled up within the first 20 or 30 minutes again. So, uh, but so I don't know if any of y'all were the lucky ones, but
Are you going, David?
no, I'm not going.
No.
So, anyhow, well, thanks everyone. And
Thanks a lot, Rachel. It was great.
Thanks,
It was.
Marilyn.
Was.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you.
You too. Good to see you. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
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 Cool.